sick, diving. Ordinary Rosenblatt. Easy Russian. Visualizing season 6 of Kitchen Sink Microscopy.
All right, welcome to another Kitchen Sink Microscopy. And this one's another book lightning round where we take our favorite books from yesteryear, or I don't know, last week even, if possible. I haven't bought a book in a while, but anyway, we instead of going through our normal 9 categories, we decided, why not just like go back and forth talking about books. So we do it the same way. There's 9 of them, 4 each, and then one that we both know that we discuss at the end. So, Erik, take it away.
Okay, so my book, the first one here, is going to be the Astronomy Handbook. This was from the 80s. This was a gift from my uncle. Back
When Pluto was still a planet.
Yes, Pluto is a planet in here. And of course, in here they speculate about other planets around stars and things like that. But of course, they didn't really. It's really interesting what's known and what's not known in this book. So there's like star charts and stuff about planets and like DIY things, building sun viewing apparatus and stuff. It's a really good book, but I mean, you can see, I don't know if you really get a sense of how weathered this is and dog-eared everything is, but I carried this around so much as a kid, and this inspired me. This is kind of like my first step into science and things like that. And it just like completely fired my imagination, and like to this day I still read it. And of course I have a much larger catalog of astronomy books, but this one was the first. This is where it all began, back in like elementary school. So yeah,
that makes me wonder, are books like that even still written with the internet and I don't know, things like the James Webb telescope and like just constantly sending like shit that's like upending everything we know about the universe. I think now, like, they're saying our entire universe is inside a supermassive black hole.
Yeah. There's yes, with the pace of things now, it's constantly updating. And yeah, there's a lot of things that in this book are not necessarily quite true now, based on what we know, but it's still a good beginning point, I think. And the pictures and illustrations are really good. That's for me, like the astronomy books I love those, because like, it's funny too, because like some of the outer planets, it's like there are just telescope pictures, because at the time we didn't have any up close pictures of stuff. And now I can't even imagine what a book like that would be. But I don't know if they still make. I mean, it's still cool to look at and cool to read about. And when you understand the context of, say, like that time period, it's pretty still, I guess, valid and relevant in a way. The stuff in here about building a planetarium and things, and how to there's like how to observe the sun safely. Star charts, of course, are all still accurate. So there's still a lot of good information in here. But yeah, you're right. Like, we now know way more. I mean, this was the 80s.
Yeah.
That wasn't that long ago in the grand scheme of things. And now it's like, holy shit, it's all different now.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, the 80s was closer to the initial moonwalk there than we are to the 80s. So
yeah, I know, that's nuts. Yeah, I think the last mission was right after I was born or something like that. Yeah, in fact, that was the Apollo Soyuz project. Yeah.
So is there anything in that book about white holes?
A white hole? Now, if I had
Every
a
action has an opposite and reactions. Equal and opposite. Yeah.
well, and the thing is too, it's like they talk about black holes in here, but there's a lot more we know about black holes, and now we have photographs of a black hole that didn't exist when this book was written.
So wild.
I know. Well, and to me, there's a certain sense of nostalgia going back through this and reading it and being like, oh man, we didn't know anything back then. You know, like
Well, on the flip side, what's also amazing is like some of this stuff feels like we've known it forever just because there were geniuses that theorized it
mhm.
and then like later it was proven and we were like, oh shit, wow, they got that like on the nose.
Yeah. Yeah, we've confirmed a lot of things that were basically speculation back in the day, which is awesome. I love that. All these projects and space programs that are going on. Oh my God, it's what it is. But the contrast between when this book was written and now is like night and day, which is amazing. So I guess going back and looking through this just shows how awesome things are now, because people take it for granted. Well, that's a fucking book drop.
Drop.
Oh man.
Conjures imagery of evenings at the library, putting the books in the book drop.
The book drop. Oh man. All right, well, it's your turn now.
Well, this one I no longer have with me, but is definitely like a book that has stuck with me over the years. It was part of a trilogy. The first one, I'm going with the first one because why not? And it was by Robert J. Sawyer, and it was called Hominids. And the whole premise behind this one was that there was kind of like a interdimensional rift or something, and these scientists that were studying like hard water and neutrinos or something like accidentally open this up and they step through and they're in an alternate Earth where Neanderthals had become the dominant hominid. And it was such a cool like way that Robert J. Sawyer just like brought this whole universe into like presented different ways of being in a completely logical way, like metric time. There was like they lived with nature, so they would just like make houses out of existing trees without uprooting the trees and processing them and shit. Like they just kind of dug them out and lived in them, and there was like they all had these like implants in their arm that kind of were like modern day body cams for police that just like monitored everything. So there was no crime because like you're honestly always being recorded. So you would never do anything to fuck up. And like, it was so cool just how they presented these, like we always thought of Neanderthals as being like the dumb ones that completely lost out, but I mean they did have bigger brains.
Yeah, they weren't as dumb as people presume.
Yeah,
that's such an interesting premise, and that's what I love about like high science fiction is this exploration of all kinds of concepts and stuff in this fictional sense. But just like Star Trek does, it's like it's a way of exploring something in a comfortable setting, like a non-combative setting, and presenting some ideas, maybe a lot of fanciful ideas, but still, like you said, it's kind of, hey, this is logically thought out. Like this is a very thoughtful idea. Yeah, like the idea of implants that record everything and stuff, and like, well, obviously
they also monitored like biometric stuff too. So like health was like always, they were always on top of their health and stuff. Like,
yeah, man, that's super interesting.
Like a utopia.
Yeah.
But and it's kind of interesting how like since those books have come out, I think in the early 2000s, maybe late
Mm.
90s, we've discovered that many of us still have Neanderthal genes
Yep.
in our genome and stuff. So,
Which actually makes us more resilient.
mm,
Like you're better off if you got a little bit of that in you.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, like it, it was hominids, hominids, humans, and then hybrids was the
Okay.
trilogy. So I don't remember the other two as well. I think the first one was like more of the human like being in the Neanderthal world, and then like flip the script, and then of course they had a kid, so then it was like all about
Hmm.
being kind of this half breed between dimensions. Like how trippy is that?
That's crazy. That's awesome. Man, I'm gonna have to check that one out. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, very very cool book. Very cool book. It kind of got me into him as an author, and I read a bunch of other stuff that he wrote, like Woke and forgetting the name of these, but um, he's done a lot of good stuff, and he tends to take this like science angle of
Mhm.
things. So
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah,
Well, and that's also a great way of introducing young readers to science.
yeah,
Because like you go to a science class and it's dull. Oftentimes it's really boring. But like if you could be introduced to these kind of much more complex concepts in a way that like can like get put into your mind without it being boring, like good. Why not? I mean, as long as it's scientifically accurate, of course. You don't want young minds being contaminated with like wrong ideas. Um, but still, it's fiction, and in fiction, you could do whatever. Oh shit. Well, that's time there.
I was just looking up to see if he actually was a scientist, but I don't think so.
Hmm.
Canadian, eh?
Yeah. Well, you can also reference science materials. You can have
Yeah.
consultants and things that you work with. So, of course, all my books are basically nonfiction. So we're probably going to have a contrast here, which is great. Like,
Yeah.
so my next one is kind of two, but mostly one, if that makes any sense. So this book, let's see, let's go with this here. Yeah, you can take a look at it. So it's writing basic adventure programs for the TRS 80. And that is not meaning basic in the sense of simple. That means basic, the programming language. So it's full of like code and like all kinds of stuff. And it basically walks you through creating a text adventure on a TRS 80. And this is not the original. I bought this much later, so this is in much better condition than the library book that I constantly checked out, constantly. But this was kind of the beginning into learning programming and creating algorithms and like, but it was in a fun sort of way because it's like you're making a game, and not just doing boring stuff. And so like basically I think it was this book from the Swayze library was never in circulation apart from me. Like I would check it out, I'd return it, and then I'd wait like a couple days, and then I'd check it out again, and then I return it, and then
Nobody else has heard of that book from Tacoma,
just
like
because of
since it
me.
wasn't there.
Yeah, but yeah, like this was the beginning. Like I think in middle school is when I started getting into programming computers, and and this thing just sparked my imagination because it's like this dungeon crawl kind of text adventure, but it goes through like kind of builds from the very simplest elements, and then adds more complicated things as time goes on, and then it kind of suggests a few things that you could try, like, oh hey, here's some things we don't have in the book, but why don't you try to write some code that does this or that. And they even had like a graphical adventure example in here that constitutes only like the last little eighth of the book, but it's there, and that really sparked my imagination, like I said. And combined with that, and this is the one that I used to check out from the Swayze library, Compute's third book of Apple. So the Apple II was what I first started learning programming on, and I don't know if you can really quite see that, but there's some code that they include in here. And so this is from Compute Magazine. They collected a bunch of programs, and so there's like the code. Some of it's machine code. You type it in and whatnot. But this literally is the book that I would check out along with the other book, because I found it at the Swayze library in the for sale section, and I think I paid like 10 cents for it, and I'm like, oh, no way. I mean, you could see how like ratty this thing is. I would just carry this around all the time, read it and try things out. And of course, if you look at like this stuff, try typing that in without making a mistake. It's well, that's where I learned debugging. So yeah, those kind of books.
So the other book, though, like, was that more of a text-based game, or was
Yeah.
there like visual? Okay.
Like it was
I actually grew up on games like that.
Zork, the
With
Zork
text
series.
computer.
Yeah. Oh, text adventures are great. Like,
Yeah.
I still love playing them to this day. They're amazing, and
It's like a computer game version of radio shows,
yeah.
It's
Or-
all of the imagination is fired up and everything.
or choose your own adventure, kind of.
Mhm.
And well, and of course today they could be like exceedingly complicated. But yeah, well, and that's the thing is too. I mean, the TRS 80, or otherwise affectionately known as the Trash 80, we did not have a lot of computing power, and so creating text adventures allowed you to have a very immersive game without having to use or needing a lot of like resources. And so text adventures were extremely common. TRS 80, Commodore 64, the original IBM PC, big, huge mainframe systems and stuff. There were so many. The original was a Colossal Caves or something, or Adventure or whatever. Those were text adventures, and oh my God,
Are they still making these?
I'm sure there's a few out there. I haven't looked, but I'm sure there's a few, and especially because like retro is in now, so I'm sure people are going back to that and making a new version of Rogue or something like that. So
Yeah, I mean, if those are still a thing, or you can find the old school ones, I would urge people to try that out. Like, just because something is old doesn't mean it's like worthless.
no,
And
some of the games, Zork, the Zork series is like, those are some of the best. Oh my God, the stories being told, and it's like reading a book. You seeing it visually, you can pick things apart, and you're kind of disconnected in a way. But when you're reading, your mind is the stage, and that, oh yeah, it's they're great. And one thing about text adventures too is it forces you to kind of slow down and take your time, because it's turn based. So there's no rush. You could go take a piss or have a coffee, or whatever, and then come back and make the next move. All right. Well, on to you then.
all right. So, yeah, I went with just fiction stuff.
Oh,
this
that's
time
perfect
around.
then. It's a perfect balance.
And this is another like part of a series, but I'm going with the first one because that's, of course, what got me into it. And this one is by science fiction writer Piers Anthony, or
Oh,
fantasy writer slash science fiction, because he's
fantasy
done,
slash science fiction. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. His worlds kind of combine a
yeah.
little bit of both.
Um, and it was On a Pale Horse. So the premise
Oh,
of you know that one?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole premise of that one was like these like forces of nature were personified. So like death and war and nature and then eventually like Satan and God themselves were like the final two books, which is
Mhm.
kind of clever. Um, but basically like this guy was about to commit suicide or something and death walks in and he like shot death just kind of like because he got startled and then he had to take over as death because he
Yep.
killed death.
I do remember reading that. I remember reading that. I mean, it was a long time ago, so I don't recall all the details. But yeah, Piers Anthony's stuff is fucking amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, I do still have that one. It's upstairs because that's one of the books that I got from my friend Jeff when he committed suicide. He left that to me, and so I
Mm.
made it a point to read all the books he left to me because like that's quite a gesture to be like, I think you would enjoy these books, and now I'm going to die.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
and
that is kind of
I really got into that and then bought like the whole series and other
mhm.
stuff that Piers Anthony wrote. So
Yeah. Well, and that's a way of kind of not only remembering somebody, but also kind of immersing yourself into their world.
yep,
Like, because books, of course, as we, I mean, that's kind of our thing. We like it forms you, it like becomes kind of the foundation of your life. I mean, if you read a lot, like I did and still do, um, yeah, like the books on your shelf can tell, or on someone's shelf can tell you a lot about a person.
yeah,
Like the books that they choose to have. Um,
yeah. Um, well, yeah. At least the ones that they've read that are on their shelves.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Well, yeah, of course, anybody who's been to my house has seen my library, which is basically a library, like multiple shelves full of books. So many that I have books like stacked on top of the top of other books.
Yep.
Um, and I've read quite a few, but it's like, well, there's a lot of books that I want to read, so they're on the to-do list essentially.
Yep.
So I'll get around to them, which I do. I pick a book, and then whenever I have free time, I just slowly go through it. Um, but yeah, Piers Anthony's stories are so interesting. I mean, the world that he paints is so cool,
Hmm.
and just it's like you want to be there.
Well, he has like a huge series. I want to say it has something to do with like orcs or something,
Mhm.
but like there's just like so many books in this series. I was
Yeah.
kind of like, um, I, it seemed a little daunting to me, so I never actually like dive dove into that world.
Mhm.
Um, but like, his writing style is definitely like there's something I don't know comfortable about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's not over the top. Like it's not super goofy fantasy, but
No, but there's kind of a bit of humor thrown in
yeah. Hmm.
here and there, but it feels like a proper sci-fi fantasy world.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah. Oh man, I've read a few of his books, and I loved all of them. That's the thing. It's like just pick one and read it, and it's probably going to be good.
Yeah.
Um, you
Yeah,
know,
I had a few others of his like Ogre and uh yeah, terrible with the names of these books. Can't remember now.
I know
Um
it's been. I think like early high school was like the last time I read a Piers Anthony book. But then again, I've kind of transitioned away from like fiction more into
mhm.
like nonfiction stuff. But still, I do love a good story. I will say. I mean, that book that you gave me, the Cisco's uh, uh, autobiography or whatever. That
Yep.
God damn, I could not stop reading it. It was so good, so good. What a story! Oh my God, yeah, man. So I do like a bit of fiction here and there, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah, it's been a while since I read fiction too. Uh, I go through phases with reading in general, but
Yeah.
also like reading um, types, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Different formats or
Yeah.
categories, I guess, of
Mhm.
books and stuff. Yeah, it's.
Like for instance, the last book I was reading is
Oh, you might have to move it closer to your
yeah,
head.
oh yeah, Principles of
There.
Neuroscience, which is like really freaking heavy.
Good God. Oh man.
And yeah, like I made a sizable dent in it, but
Yeah, it looks like it. Oh man. Jeez.
so yeah, that's not what most people would consider leisure reading, but
No, I'd be inclined to read a book like that, but I'd kind of flip through it and kind of casually read little bits and pieces, unless I was like in school or something. Um, all right. Well, I guess it's my turn, isn't it? Okay. So, a little bit of beer there. Uh, my next book is The Ethical Slut. And I don't have it with me because I tend to loan out a lot of books about open relationships and polyamory. And that book is currently on loan to somebody who's exploring that.
that book is in an open relationship.
It is, yeah. But I do have Opening Up, so that's this one. Um, it's a book about how to conduct yourself in an open relationship, and the Ethical Slut is much more digestible. You could see this is almost like a textbook in a way,
Yeah.
and it's a kind of dry read, like probably not the best introduction. The Ethical Slut is about half as thick as this, and basically just as good. But if anybody is interested in pursuing an open relationship, that'd be the book that I'd recommend. Um, I mean, by the time I picked up a copy of The Ethical Slut, I was already like in that scene, I guess, or world or whatever. Um, but it's still like a good read and really fascinating. And I have books that are mostly like testimonials and kind of things like that, of like things that went right and things that went wrong and stuff like that.
How how do these books read? Because like in my head, I feel like this would be kind of like going to the library and being like, ah, you know what? I'm gay, but I don't know how to be gay. Oh, here's a book on how to be gay. Like,
Well,
what do you say in a book like this?
well, no, it's more like it would be more like if you're gay and you go to the library and you'd be looking for a book on how to deal with the rest of the world as a gay person, basically. Or maybe you're in like uh, uh you know like man woman kind of relationship sort of thing, and you're like, I'm gay. How do I talk to my partner about that? How do we work through this? um, and that kind of thing. So a lot of these books kind of deal with a lot of the external things and maybe internal when it comes to a relationship. And because it's like just like any relationship, everybody runs into bumps in the road basically. So it's like, well, how do you navigate those things? And so it's like kind of helpful to know that you're not alone and there's other people who've been there before, and here's what they did and here's what went wrong or right or whatever. um,
Hmm.
and so it's, I mean, it's helpful reference material. It's kind of like, if you are an auto mechanic, as I tend to be in my spare time, I have stacks of books about car repair, like general purpose car repair books and stuff. So if I run into some kind of weird issue, I can reference that when this, I'm like, fuck, what the hell? What? How do I fix this thing? And so you can look and see in there, like, oh, that's how you get the crankshaft sprocket out of there or whatever, things like that. And that's kind of what it is. And it's like a good thing if you have tendencies towards non-monogamy and you want to broach that subject with your partner, you could give them a book like this to read and be like, hey, why don't you read through this and see what you think? And so that way they can kind of comprehend where you're coming from. It's not specifically for you, it's more for like other people. I mean, it could be for you, I guess, because it is important. This is not just non-monogamous relationships, any relationship. It's important to kind of understand things and broaden your knowledge and add more tools to your toolkit, I guess. So
So do you ever like refer to it when you have a relationship problem? Like, okay, let's go to the index here. Girlfriend's girlfriend. She looks like you. Age 63. Okay.
you did that without like the bass playing and like the deep voice. Well,
girlfriend's girlfriend.
I don't do that specifically, but a lot of times I'll lend out a book to somebody if they're kind of struggling to negotiate their own feelings and things. I mean, I'm a veteran, so it's like I don't need to refer to books anymore. But not everybody is, and a lot of people are curious and they want to try. And we've been conditioned for so long to be monogamous that it's really hard for people to get out of it.
Yeah, you served in the Great Polyamory War of 07, right?
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, that war lasted a lot longer than that. Oh man.
Ashcroft.
Oh man. Irene. Kaboom.
So my next book is another one that was left to me by my deceased friend, and it's a science fiction one that I just really enjoyed the premise of this and thought it would be such a cool like goal as a human species, and that is by Larry Niven, The Ringworld, and. And so it's like it's similar to a Dyson sphere, but it's just like a ring, like a huge ring around a star,
like a slice of a Dyson sphere, essentially.
Yeah. So of course, like the gravitational pull makes it so that anywhere you are in this ring, up is up and down is down. Like, but when you like look off into the horizon, you just see kind of like a fading, like, I don't know what shape that would be, trapezoid or something, I guess. And it's like so massive that you would like never be able to explore the whole thing, you know?
Oh no. Well, yeah, like, well, a Dyson sphere for one is that's, but yeah, I've read some of the Ringworld stuff a long time ago, but the concept is really super fascinating because building a Dyson sphere would be almost impossible. We don't like, you would have to go to other star systems to collect materials to build a Dyson sphere, but a ring, yeah, we could probably do that. That's doable. I don't, one of the things that I'm not so sure how it would be done would be like, how do you, well, yeah, it would be, building it would be problematic, but still the concept is great. And Yeah, super fascinating.
I,
Anyways,
I wonder what flat earthers would do. Would they be like, it's not a ring, it's a square?
yeah, it's just like some kind of holographic projection. The rest of the ring here that you see slicing up the sky,
Square earthers.
square earthers. Yeah, I know it's an interesting concept, and I can't remember like what most of the story revolved around.
I don't really either because it's been such a long time and I didn't have the book for a really long time because I loaned it to a mutual friend of ours
Mm,
like 20 years ago or something,
mm,
probably longer. And and then he just kind of never gave it back. And then, because it meant something to me on a personal level coming from my dead friend,
mm.
I would be like, hey, you got that Ringworld? Have you read that yet? Oh, I haven't read it yet. I'll read it soon. I'll get it back to you. Oh, yeah. Okay, okay, okay. A couple years go by. Hey, you finished up with that Ringworld yet? Oh, not quite. But I don't even. I think it's buried under some other books. I'm gonna have to go find it. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's real respectful of you. Okay. Uh, and then so when we had a business, I made up this like fake statement, like a
Like an
like a
invoice.
past due invoice sort of thing.
Mhm.
And it had this like picture of a huge Italian gangster kind of guy that was all like, don't know what I'm gonna do, but it probably won't be nice. And
It was
there was all
spelled Prawley.
yeah, probably. And there was all these like charges like not just late fees, but like helicopter delivery fees
Yep.
for the invoices.
Yep. And I remember like so yeah, we mailed that to him. His wife took the mail, opened that up because it was like a bill, and she's like, "What?" She just completely freaked out because I think the helicopter delivery charge was like $16,000. She went to him and was like, "What the hell is this?" She was so pissed. And didn't he return it shortly after that?
I think so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. I I don't though I don't remember all the details about Ringworld. I remember it was a really good story, like really really good.
Yeah.
I think it was good enough that they were even going to try to make a movie out of it. Which current state of Hollywood, please don't.
Yeah, maybe they did at some point. There was a sequel book. Um,
Hmm.
I have or had it. I don't think I still have it, but um, I don't remember that being quite as good as it often is the case. But
Yeah.
uh, I think I remember there was this like like fascinating things about like how would things be differently or done differently, and I think there was like this whole idea of like inter ring travel, like through space, like
Oh wow, that's
like to
that's
go to the
crazy.
other end of the ring, you take a fucking rocket or
Yeah.
something.
Well, you would definitely have to. Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
if the ring is, well, that was time, but if the ring is the size of the diameter is the Earth's orbit essentially, that's
Hmm.
huge.
Yeah,
Like you said, you couldn't explore the whole entire thing in your entire lifetime unless the ring was, you know, really skinny. But as I recall, in the world, it was huge, like a huge wide band that went around the sun.
yeah,
That's cool. Oh man. Okay, so I think this is my last one, I guess. I think, right?
yeah.
Okay. All right. So, keeping with my tradition in this particular episode of nonfiction, I will present to you Getting Started in Electronics by Forrest Mims. Um, this book, my lighting, there we go. I guess you can kind of see it. So this book leads you through electronics, and it's all done in this like almost notebook paper style, all hand drawn, hand lettered, everything.
Oh, wow.
Teaching about electronics and making circuits and things like that. This is the original book that I got from Radio Shack in, I think, maybe elementary school, that I still to this day refer to, because there's certain things it's like, wait a minute, LED is LED polarity, so I kind of have to flip to that, because even though it's like so simple, I forget. But it goes into all kinds of things, including like integrated circuits, and like basically covers everything in this really thin book, everything you'd need to know to literally get started in electronics. And it even references, like if it talks about parts that you might need, it refers to Radio Shack catalog number parts, so you can, oh, I need a bunch of this type of resistor or this transistor or whatever. And oh, there's the part number. So you can just go to Radio Shack and get one. Also, I have...
Not anymore.
No, well, they still kind of exist. I also have... So Forrest Mims also released these little cheaper, small books that refer to various specific things. And I have quite a few of those. They're so great, because it's like, it makes electronics kind of fun. And so this was me getting into electronics and engineering and stuff, in my early days. And oh my God, like I said, this is the original that I have. Well, and in here, I even have a circuit that I was planning on putting together. There's a printout that I added in here. Well, it's upside down probably. No, it's right side up.
I wouldn't know.
But see, I learned to read schematics from this book when I was like in elementary school. And like that's huge. That completely changed my life. Ah, shit, I didn't have the timer going. Damn it. I got all stoked about it. Well, we'll just keep the time. Well, whatever. We're all loosey-goosey here anyway. But this series of books changed my life. Get like electronics, well, and the programming books too. I would not be the same person if I didn't have these nerdy, geeky interests that spawned from these books. I mean, even like, look at this, like the illustrations, the way he illustrated things, talking about resistors, how a resistor works. And I don't know if that can come across correctly, but there's these little cartoons that kind of are cutesy in a way, and show you how things work. But it starts you at the very most fundamental parts of electronics, and then works its way up to more complicated things like integrated circuits and everything. And there's a few example circuits in here. There's actually quite a few. So it's like, okay, you learn all these things throughout reading this book, and then in the back of the book, you can actually go ahead and build something from the things you've learned. And now you understand how it works. Like, I cannot stress how amazing these books are. And it was just something that was in Radio Shack. This is like the perfect example of how a company can bring somebody in to craft a thing that drives interest and like connects learning with sales. Because it's like, oh yeah, I want to build this stuff. Because they had those little kits too. I don't know if you ever had one of those electronic project kits. They're a little kind of cardboard and plastic box with little springs on them, with electronic components and little wires you'd stick into the springs and connect. I had a lot of those, and that's thanks to my uncle, he had a lot of money, and his gifts were always educational. So he'd buy stuff for me for like Christmas and my birthday, that was stuff that maybe my parents couldn't afford, but it was stuff that was educational, like chemistry sets and electronics project kits and books on science and things like that.
That's cool.
Yeah. Oh man, I miss the guy. But it,
I didn't have books so much, but I did have like a chemistry set and like Capsella that was
oh
kind of like
yeah, I
engineering sort of.
yep, Capsella. Oh man, that was that. I still have some, a
Oh
little
wow.
bit. Although, of course, naturally, all the battery compartment modules are all corroded and fucked up.
Yeah.
Um,
Is there a way to fix that or?
yeah, I could probably rebuild it. They're really simple. But Capsella is basically a transparent plastic thing that you have little modules and little spheres with nodes on them. You can click things together and you can build a little thing that floats or crawls across the ground or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, they
That
had motors and
yep,
lights and all kinds of
like
different.
wheels and floats and
Yeah.
propellers even.
Yep.
Yeah, that.
Build your own bathtub toys and stuff.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. And like educational stuff like that, especially when it comes to practical things, because it's like this book, like I would not be in the field that I'm in now if it were not for this very book. Like this actual ratty ass yellowed papered book, like that changed my life. I like we would not have been running a business together if it were not for that. Which is crazy.
Well, I didn't hang on to this book, but I just I always had this on the shelf in my house because it was my dad's book, but it was like about music theory,
Mm-hmm.
and I would flip through that all the time, and that definitely formed the way I write music and stuff. So,
Yeah.
like the books are just you cannot state strongly enough like how important they are and
Yeah. Well,
how
and
much
with
they can
things
really
going
shape
digital,
yeah, they can shape you entirely.
absolutely. Oh, man. God, I'm surprised this thing is still intact, honestly. It's like, oh shit. Well, that's time. I carried this around with me in my school bag all the time. Man, oh, the memories. Every page brings me back to when I was a child. Um, and it's funny too because it's like even as an adult, I'm almost 50 now, and I still go back to this to reference certain things. Like I'm building the circuit, and I'm like, wait a minute, which is the collector emitter, and like, okay.
What do I reverse the polarity on?
Well, and it's particularly useful when you're building a circuit custom and not just following some kind of plan. If you're like crafting something out of the
Yeah.
ether, um, which I got to say, when it comes to electronics, is orders of magnitude more difficult than just kind of following some instructions on Instructable or whatever. All right. Well, your book, I think.
Yep. Um, Kind of made honorable mention to this on the last one of these that we did, but The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the first
Oh,
book of the Narnia series.
ooh.
Uh, that was
Actually,
like
if you talk for just a
definitely.
moment, I might
Mhm.
be able to grab it.
Oh yeah. That was definitely like my favorite of all of them. My dad had all 8 of them when I was like maybe before I was born or when I was a baby, and he would just read them to me in my crib, and I would always come back to that one though, like the first one, and it just the universe that it painted, this whole concept of finding like a secret door into a whole other world was like what kid doesn't love that? So, um, but it also had like these subtle religious elements without being overtly like pushy about religion.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely wasn't trying to like indoctrinate you with any religious principles. It was just kind of like inspired by, I guess.
Yeah. I think I have it in storage, so I don't have the box set that I have.
Yeah.
And it's like the difference between a Christian book and a book by a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, you could definitely tell there were some religious elements, but it was just like sort of just there, not really that big of a deal. Um, but at the same time, it's like, there's a lot of fantasy and weird, it almost kind of Tolkien, it felt very Tolkien-esque.
Yeah.
Like, oh, those stories. That was one when I went to that Christian school when I was a kid. Like, we read those books in class. Um, they were amazing. Just like Harry Potter, though. I think the first book was the best. That was the one that it's like, and I don't know if it's like because you're introduced to it, and that's your first experience is your favorite or something or whatnot. But yeah, though, oh my god, that series is amazing.
And I don't know if you remember this, but way before the Hollywood movie, there was like a PBS movie that they made
Yeah.
for The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I think they might have made some for the other movies as well, but like didn't get all the way, much like Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And that I feel like I have memories of linking watching that with getting into Red Dwarf. I mean,
Oh
I
yeah.
always watched PBS anyway during the day, but this
Mm-hmm.
is one of the programs that would be on in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like after that aired, they did some Red Dwarf, and I was like, oh, what's this? You know? So
Mm-hmm.
like it's so funny that like something completely unrelated, like a Christian allegorical book series turned into a movie for a free public TV station,
Mm-hmm.
gets you into like this comedy from another country. And
Wasn't the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe TV thing like a BBC production? So it was a British
oh
show?
yeah,
Because I
that would
feel like I remember Tom Baker was in that, I think. So the fourth Doctor from Doctor Who.
maybe.
I feel like I don't know why, but I because I remember watching that too, and I think he was in it. I don't remember what role he played, if he
Was he
played
maybe
one at
like
all.
the half goat, half man?
Maybe now. Okay, well now I got to go and watch it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that.
I mean, for a movie that old, that was
Mm-hmm.
actually really well done with Afson, the talking lion.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like that looked way cooler, at least in my memory, than
Mm-hmm.
than what they did with the CG much later.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, and it was, that isn't that just the way, right? They
Yeah.
try to amp it up and stuff, whereas it's like, hey, if you just keep things simple, sometimes those are the more effective um, effects or sets or whatever.
Mhm.
Uh, oh man, that just for some reason made me think of the Hobbit and some like the cartoon
Yep.
The Hobbit. So the one from like the 70s
Yeah.
compared to the movie that was produced like a decade ago or whatever. Like Smog or Smaug or whatever you want to say, looked better in the cartoon animation than it did in the new one, like decades later, with all this like fancy high level CG stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
that's unconvincing. Whereas, like, I remember, like, and I still watch this. I think I even have it on Laserdisc. Um, he's kind of terrifying in the
Mhm.
cartoon. It's like that was a low budget, made for kids kind of movie, and they did it better.
Yeah.
I
Low
would
budget.
say
Low budget sometimes is, I don't know, like the unpolished stuff is sometimes the gold.
absolutely. Yeah, I was gonna that was time. But I was going to get into that like maybe Hollywood should, with all these $300 million flops that they just keep churning out. Maybe they should say, let's divide that down and give a bunch of different smaller studios $10 million to make a movie.
Right.
They did that in the 70s, and holy shit. Well, that's why we had all the cool shit in the 80s. Like, maybe that's a good lesson. All right, so I guess we're at the last one, right?
Yeah. Well, this was a book we both had, but for tonight you have the one that I didn't have, but is similar enough. It was
It's
the
related.
Star Trek Technical Manual.
Yep.
And so you have the original Enterprise there, but we both had that maroon colored Next
Yep.
Generation Technical Manual, and
Yep.
oh man, I read that
So
thing
just I know. Let's see. Here we go. Let's go that way. Yep. And so this is full of this is really hard because this is a kind of a big book, but we'll just flip through it real quick, and maybe I can get a little bit more in there. So this covers almost everything, like Star Trek. This is the TOS one. But yeah, somewhere I have the TNG one. I just couldn't find it. And oh my God, these are amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Like, because it's kind of like it covers in detail a lot of the little things that you don't get exposition for in the show. And generally speaking, these books are either written or co-written or whatever by the people who develop the stuff in the show.
Yeah.
So it's like not just somebody's idea of, well, what maybe, but it's like the actual people who created the show.
Well, and I really loved how they would kind of give like scientific explanations for warp theory and all this stuff that like it still isn't really a thing, but it was enough. It was enough to get you interested as a kid in actual science, like seeing in a fictional sense actual application of science and how that works and how it's interpreted and applied, and that was such a cool idea. To kind of like validate the fantasy, and with all the, I mean they got into like how all the systems worked together, like coming from the main computer core and going to the Bassard collectors or the main deflector dish, and showing where the other deflectors that they never mention on the show, where are those? And like each and every shuttle bay, and it was so cool.
Oh, I know, it's amazing. And
I think they even had bathrooms in there.
Yeah, they did. Yep.
They were like, oh, we better put bathrooms in.
Yep. And I was looking in here because I felt like there somewhere in here there was like a communicator schematic, like and not a schematic based in the Star Trek world, but like you could build your own communicator today.
Oh wow.
From where I don't know, it's somewhere in here, but like, and that ties the fictional world even more to the real world, and that like anybody could like take this schematic and build their own like walkie-talkie essentially. I don't know where that would be, but I mean they do have these kinds of diagrams like that that show the insides of things. That's a tricorder.
Yeah, that is super cool.
There's like star charts and stuff as well. Well, here's another one that this is actually really useful. So this shows you the spatial relationship between like the different worlds. like where they are in relation to each other and stuff, which is kind of helpful to, to know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't, maybe that circuit diagram. Oh, wait, no, here it is. Yep, there it is. You can, let's see if I can bring this up. Kind of hard to. So that's the schematic for a communicator. Wow. So you could, I mean, well, maybe I should, there's a parts list too. I won't obscure that, but so
also from Radio Shack, or?
I know probably not, but you could, at the time you could definitely buy stuff from Radio Shack, which is great. I mean, for me, when I first was playing around or reading this, I actually had I had a charge account at Radio Shack when I was in middle school. So a small one, but it's like I could pick up my parts and then go back and pay it off.
Oh wow.
It's like, because there was a really cool manager there.
Nerd.
Yes, that would probably be the nerdiest thing. Oh man.
If you ever had a charge account at Radio Shack, you might be a nerd.
But these technical manuals are great. It just adds to the kind of realism and makes the experience more immersive, which most shows don't do. You don't find. Well, of course, there's like fan things that for other shows and things. I'm sure there's like a fan community for like Buffy the Vampire Slayer or something, but they don't have like a technical manual,
right? Well, for a show like that, like I feel like they probably wrote this anyway, just as a self-reference tool to maintain continuity within the show and try to stay somewhat grounded to realism, and then they were just like, well, why don't we just publish this, like, brilliant, because I mean, that's a unique book too, like,
oh yeah,
it's not like you've got horror books and you've got crime books and romance books and stuff, but then like a fictional technical manual, that's a little out of the ordinary.
It is. Yeah. Actually, for some reason, I have a book that just made me think. I have a book that's about the same size as this. How to operate a space shuttle. There's like a space shuttle operator's manual. It's like legit. Like, obviously not enough to literally launch and fly a space shuttle, but it covers all of the details and processes and inner workings and stuff like that. It's a good read. Like, people, that's the thing. This is a good read if you like Star Trek, and maybe I don't know. I'll propose a little bit of a lament, I suppose, that like Star Trek doesn't really possess that kind of magic anymore, or that maybe not magic, science or whatever. That like that kind of grounded in reality feeling. Well, maybe some of the new stuff is starting to get back into that again. But like the JJ verse stuff just kind of tossed all that out. But it isn't just that. It didn't start there. I think like even by Voyager, I would almost argue, and this is almost heresy for me, that it started more in DS9. That like that disconnection from science. And things.
Yeah, that's true. Like so with all the movies, I would argue that they kind of don't focus on that, and for obvious reasons, because it's action that sells movie tickets and stuff. So they've all tried to kind of lean toward that. I would say that the odd numbered Star Treks were unpopular, not because they were odd numbered, but because they tend to lean away from the action a little bit more, I think.
Yeah. Well, although Star Trek 3 was fucking good, except for the fact that Kirstie Alley was not in it. My heartthrob. But that's okay. It was still a damn good movie. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's a delicate balance, right? How do you
Yeah.
like appeal to as many people as possible and be able to afford the budget to continue producing stuff.
Yeah.
But it is, I do miss those days of like when things were kind of grounded in science and stories were driven by that. Um,
I mean, yeah. So, and this is probably heresy for me because I really kind of hate Discovery, but
mhm,
I don't remember where I saw this, but that whole hokey thing about like parts of the ship like spinning around itself and stuff.
mhm.
And people were like, how does that even work
Was that
physically? Like,
the spore drive?
yeah, stuff like that. And they had they are released somehow, I forget, some way of explaining how like warp nacelles could be not attached to the ship and how that would be scientifically plausible. And I was like, okay, well, no, but at least you're trying to do the
At least
Star
yes.
Trek technical manual thing and,
I,
you know,
I
create
I
something, you know.
I can respect them for at least trying,
Yeah.
and that's good.
Yeah.
Maybe I can throw in a couple of honorable mentions. I don't know if you have any, but we don't have to go into great detail necessarily. But I have a couple extra books here. Um, again, keeping with the nonfiction and science and engineering based kinds of stuff. Um, Pocket Ref. I don't know if you've ever seen this before, but it's like a well, it's
Like
hard to
all the rules of sports. So,
no. So the reference, it's a pocket reference book that covers all like basically anything you'd ever want to know. Like um there like just this page, world electric and TV, torque versus RPM, motors, flip to another section, metal content of minerals. And there's like charts that give you all kinds of detailed information. Log, E circumference area, degrees and trig functions, compacted strand wire rope. Like there's, and I mean, knots and things like it's basically everything you'd ever want to know.
4,738 irradiated haggises.
Yeah, weather map symbols and stuff like that. I mean, it's so crazy how much stuff they pack into this tiny little book. Um,
Yeah.
but it's super useful and it's not expensive. It's something everybody ought to have because basically, if you want to do something, you can probably find something related to that in here. It's crazy. The other one would be a book that I inherited from my grandma, Thinking with a Pencil. And this book, well, I should probably do that because I think there's probably, well, no, the timer's probably not there. But this book is crazy. It's almost like Pocket Ref, but for art. Covers all kinds of crazy stuff. Um, man, ooh, there was a page with a naked woman on it, hand drawn. So I'm not going to show it, but it talks about art and engineering and all kinds of. It's kind of insane because I like when I got this book, it was just like, oh yeah, it looks interesting. When I was a kid, and I started reading it, I'm like, oh my god, this changes everything. Like
Hmm.
it covers so much stuff. Um, I wouldn't say this changed my life as much as the electronics one, but this definitely altered the way that I think and reason and work out problems with a pencil, essentially. Um, it's great. So, yeah. I don't know if you have anything you want to contribute.
No, I didn't prepare anything. Plus, I have to take a wicked piss.
All right. Well, I guess that's as good a point as any to conclude things. So
I could try to write a
hopefully,
book about having to take a wicked piss if you want.
hopefully everybody enjoyed this. And, this is our last, like, this kind of episode video that we're doing. So, yeah. Next
Yeah.
time, I think we're doing live stuff, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
or something. Who knows? I don't know. The channel's in a state of flux, so it's kind of whatever.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's watching it anyway, so we're just going to try a bunch of different shit. I mean,
No, why not? You know,
the government won't do it, so why don't we? Yeah.
exactly. Oh man, well, hopefully everybody enjoyed this book review. We will definitely do more of these. I can guarantee you we're going to do more book review videos kind of like this, because, well, we love books. And well, Casey, you don't have too many books in your possession right now, but I have a lot of books. And
Eventually I'll have to start doing German books.
exactly. Oh, but then that'll get interesting, huh?
Yeah, das ist mein Lieblingsbuch.
Do I have to learn German now? Oh my God, Jesus. That's like, yeah, man.
Leider ja.
It's like learning how to write Chinese. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for sticking it out, and hopefully you enjoyed and learned something, and maybe pick up one of these books and take a look. Take a look. It's in a book. Hey, LeVar Burton, if you're watching, love you, man.
Take a look. It's in a book. Lesen Regenbogen.
Visualizing season 6 of Kitchen Sick Microscopy.